So recently, Israel, with the whole thing going on in the Middle East, Israel expanded the conflict to include not initially they were fighting in Gaza against Hamas. So now they expanded the conflict and they are now fighting Hezbollah in Lebanon. So when this whole thing was going on, right, a lot of people, which I think is still good because it's trying to condemn the killing of civilians, whether it's in small or maybe it's a handful or a lot, is right. Well, I saw a video, and sometimes in situations like this, we usually don't see the big pictures. Like, we don't see how it affects the lives of everyday people. We are looking at it from geopolitics, so we are just seeing the headlines, but how it affects the everyday people on ground. So I saw a video, and in the video, the lady, she was a maid, or she's a maid, or she was a maid. Anyway, so in the video I watched in Lebanon, this lady, an African woman, a black woman, was a domestic staff for a family in Lebanon. Now, once she arrived in Lebanon, her passport was seized by the family she was working for. That is the first thing that I wanted to point out. It was sealed. So secondly, as the Israel started bombing the southern part of Lebanon and even across Lebanon, the family decided to flee. But what I found very, very disturbing from her narration is that when they were leaving, they were going to the UAE, they told her to stay and take care of the house.
The moment Madam left, she told me that to stay in the house. When I stay in the house, come in the house. So I live in the house. I come back. I leave my phone in the house. The fire is in the house. The location. The first day they attacked from Sur, all of us, like me, I was in the kitchen. Madam going to Dubai now. She left me in the streets. She told me there is plenty Africa here. Let me find my sisters. I have kids from Africa. I have my family. I don't have phone. All my Madam house.
We don't have money to use. Now we are staying in the streets. Look, we don't have food to eat. It's the problem.
I want to go back. I want to go back.
They thought it was okay to run to preserve their lives, which is fine. Everybody's life should be preserved. But they told her to stay back in the house. An African woman to stay back in the house to take care of the house. So how did we find out? Is that when all these things was going, after they left, she was taking care of the house as they had instructed her to do, and then Israel bombed the house. She escaped narrowly with her life. And the video I saw, there were African women sitting on the streets in Lebanon.
As Western countries evacuate their citizens from Lebanon, many migrant workers from the global south are stuck.
Our lives is not safe. We want to return back to our country.
Beirut has been the target of repeated Israeli airstrikes. The capital has also been flooded by internally displaced people fleeing fighting in the south, close to the border with Israel. The government has set up shelters to accommodate the influx of people, but migrant workers are being turned away.
They are outside. They don't have internet, so no communication. They stay outside. Most of them, they sleep in the beach. So we are suffering. We want to return back.
This migrant from the Philippines has been making meals for those on the street.
Government schools are offering shelter for people, but migrants are not allowed. So most of the migrants are just in the street if they don't have the embassies or the consulate to accommodate them.
The number we have from the embassy, I messaged the number, is not going to anyone. No one is responding to us.
These women say they've also been abandoned by their employers who fled to safety without them. Many say they would like to return to their home countries but can't because their employers still have their passports.
So usually this is the system here. If the employer doesn't want you, they will just drop you somewhere without your papers, and you can't do anything.
As Israel's military campaign expands and forces more people to flee northward, migrants in Beirut fear their situation only stands to get worse.
Some were nursing their babies. Some were just sitting down crying. The number of them, they had been rescued by some NGOs that are working in the region, and so they were just there. I was pained. And I asked myself, Africa, how did we get here? Many of you don't know that forget this conflict now going on between Israel and Lebanon. Forget this conflict. Many of you don't know that in your respective countries across Africa, your economy is better than that of Lebanon. The economy in Lebanon is in tatters. It's really it's a mess. Your economy, many even a country now like Nigeria, that Nigeria is experiencing the worst economic crisis it has seen in over 40 years. As we speak, this mess of an economy that you are saying Tinubu bad, Tinubu destroyed Nigeria's economy with along with Buhari. This economy we are condemning is a lot better than the economy in Lebanon. Many of you don't know. At that point when I was watching this video, many thoughts were just pouring through my mind. No, my mind. Number one, how did we get here? That running through the desert to be domestic staff in a country like Lebanon that is experiencing one of the worst economies in the world. Even likely your country, the economy in your country is a lot better than that of Lebanon. How did we get it that Africans are happy to take peanuts? Africans are happy to take crumbs that fall off the table just so they can leave their country. How did we get here? I was wondering. And another thing I was also thinking about is by the time this whole conflict, or this war between Israel and Hezbollah and Lebanon, by the time it settles, maybe 6 months later, you will still see Africans running through the Sahara Desert to get to Lebanon, to run to Saudi Arabia. Have you seen the way they are treated in Saudi Arabia? To run to Saudi Arabia, to run to many of these countries. That as you're landing, they're taking your passport. As you're landing, they're taking your passport. That means you can't even escape, regardless of how you are treated. And many of them, if you listen to their narration of what they're experiencing in the Middle East, you will weep. There was a time I had a talk with someone. There was a time I had a talk with someone who was part of these people who are trying to get out of the country in Africa, particularly sub-Saharan Africa. Then say, "Oh, Africa is in a bad shape. Africa." Blah, blah. So we're trying to run to Europe through the Sahara. If what these people are experiencing, based on what this guy, he was arrested, was captured, and he was put in prison in Libya. Oh my Jesus! What this guy said they saw trying to get to Europe through the Middle East. Ah, even what they experienced in an African country like Libya, you will weep. You see, one of the most important things that I think that we as Africans can do right now is to elevate the voice of Africa, and not the voice of Africa just with music. Yes, all of those things are doing well, but really to delve into this thing of politics, really, and not just politics from our local countries, but geopolitics, because many Africans are still of the belief, you know, that outside is better than here. And this is what I was saying about colonization of the mind. Colonization of the mind, because we feel like there's nothing good can come out of this place. So that's why many people, a lot of us, would rather suffer the Sahara deserts, would rather suffer sitting down in boats, stranded in boats on the sea for several days just to get to Europe, just to escape to the Middle East. Middle East, sometimes, yeah. What kind of life do you think you are going for? What kind of life are you hoping for? That as you're landing in a country, they are taking your passports. That means once they take that thing, you are not an individual. There's no place you can run to for help. At least if you have your passport, you can go to your embassy, your country's embassy. If things get out of hand, you can go to your country's embassy, and your country can find a way to move you back to your country. The embassy can find a way to move you back to your country. But once your passport is taken, you're almost like you're a no, no, not almost, you're a nobody. You don't have rights. You don't have rights. Your identity has been taken away from you. That thing is slavery. That thing is slavery with complete disregard for human life, for your life. You take that thing, you don't have any right. You cannot say, this way you're treating me is not good. Shut up, you don't have an identity. Your passport has been taken. And Africans are going through these things. They are saying, yes, we would rather have that than to stay in our respective countries to fight to make it better. I'm not saying the countries in Africa are blissful. I'm not saying that. If I keep saying that, I've said it several times. Many occasions, your economy in several of these African countries are better than the economy of many of these European countries, even the United Kingdom. Yes, even the United Kingdom. Your economy in several African countries is better than that of the UK. So what is this? This is why I want us to this is what I really want to discuss. Why is it that many Africans would rather die traveling to Europe, going to the Middle East, looking for so-called green pastures instead of staying in their respective countries to fight to make it better? I don't understand this thing. I really don't. Because some of those people now, when they were going, if you had told them, come, let's calm down, this is how we can fix this thing in our local government, or this is what we can do to fix this thing in our state, in our community, or in our country, you will just say, oh, no, 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 our leaders are so corrupt, Africa is so backward, Africa will never progress. You will hear you will hear the worst things about Africa from the mouths of these Africans. You would hear the worst thing about Africa from the mouths of these Africans. Yet, they are willing to go and become domestic helps in Lebanon. I'm not saying there's anything wrong in being a domestic help. I'm not saying that. But being a domestic help for people who take away your passport, they don't have regard for you. They don't have regard for you. You should know once they are beginning to demand for your passport. eh, you should know that once they're beginning to demand for your passport, you're you're not coming to see green pastures. Quite right. I understand that in some circumstances, some of these people were it was actually a case of human trafficking. They were taken. Do you understand? In fact, where they landed was not where they thought they were going. So I understand. But I'm saying this for those people who know that they are going to do so and so and so thing somewhere in the Middle East or Europe or in the United States. They know, and they would rather leave to suffer that thing they are suffering in that country or in that region rather than stay in Africa, rather than stay in their country to lend their own hand to make things better. Well, let me know what you think about that. Oh, if I can find that video, I'll post it. I'll put it for you to see. It was painful. It was painful. Every time you see Africans, it's not just painful, it's embarrassing. Really, it's embarrassing because every time you see when you're saying, oh, people died in the ocean on the boats, they're pulling out the bodies of these people. They're people from Africa. Not only, of course, there are people from the Middle East too. That's the funny thing. People in Lebanon are running away from Lebanon to go to go somewhere. And we in Africa, we are running to the people that are running from Lebanon, they don't know what they're running from. They don't know what they're running from. I've seen videos of Africans in Europe saying if they had all they need is transport fare. If they had transport fare, they will come back to the continent. I've seen videos of Africans stranded in the Sahara Desert. There's this video I saw. I don't know if I spoke about it here. Stranded in the Sahara Desert. They hadn't seen water in 2 days. Ah, they were dusty. Dusty. 2 days, no water. 2 days. If you see them, you'll not believe they were human beings. The dust had so covered them. And this one would die in the desert. And nobody will give account for them. Nobody knows. The family members just know they traveled they will say they are traveling to Europe. 40 years, nobody had heard. They didn't know that they died 40 years ago when they went out on the trip to go to Europe via the Sahara Desert. Do you see the way they opened fire? Many of these border guards in countries like Tunisia opened fire in Libya on Africans. Ah, God. We will change this thing. We will change this thing. See, let me tell you. I have my script here for what I wanted to say. This thing I didn't plan to say it. But mark my words. Me and you, we're going to change this thing. I said it before when I was talking about the Africa China Forum that took place several weeks ago. I said it that we're going to transform Africa. That the miracle of China that the world keeps talking about will be nothing compared to the miracle of Africa. But what do we need is for you and me to decide that it is me that will change. So as you're watching now, say to yourself, it is me that will change Africa. It is me that will change Africa. We just need to decide. Once we decide that we are going to transform this continent, the rest we will then gather our strategy, we'll gather ourselves together and we'll go to work. I'm telling you. But see all the stories about what Africans go through in the Sahara Desert, in the boats going to Europe. I just saw that Senegal was giving how many several million euros by European countries to keep the migrants here. To keep the migrants here. We see it with Tunisia. Many of these African countries, they are Europe is saying, don't come, we don't want your migrants, don't come, don't come, stay back, and they are paying and they are throwing money at the problem. Many times. How is it that as there are people in Lebanon are running away from the bombs of Israel? How is it that Africans are caught in the crossfire? Who went there as domestic staff? And when the family they were taking care of and the family they were working for left, they told them, stay back here and take care of the house because they did not regard them. They didn't even regard them as humans. They didn't regard them as humans. We are going to change this continent. See that narrative of Africans dying in boats going to Europe. You see that narrative of Africans dying in the Sahara Desert, of Africans abandoned and stranded in Lebanon because we're looking for greener pastures. We're going to change it. Me and you will change it. So let me know what you think about Africa caught in the crossfires as Israel and Hezbollah battle it out. Let me know what you think about it in the comment section below. Many of these people who their passports have been taken, they can't even go to their embassies because there's no proof that you're from that country. There's no proof. And even when they want to take these Lebanese, they are taking them into the UAE and other countries in the Middle East to help them. You that you're running with them, you can't go because you don't have any passport showing who you are. Let me know what you think about this occurrence in the comment section below. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to this channel, and share this video with your friends and family so that we can spread this word and we can gather more people together as we are committed to transforming the story of Africa.